Hello, my name is Epic Bubble and I sometimes go by the name of Simon, and this is a thoughts video. This is a thoughts video on the lovely game Azul. It's an abstract game designed by Michael Kiesling, and it has you and up to three of your friends basically putting tiles down in a bathroom and scoring points. Essentially how the game works is on your turn you're trying to fill up a bathroom of tiles, and you have basically trying to slot these tiles into lines, so you have to get different colors. So you're going to have blue, you're going to have red, and then you're going to have black, and then you're going to have turquoise, and then you're going to have yellow. And you're basically trying to get a whole mass of tiles together. You essentially are drafting these tiles, so as you take a tile from the center pile, you're essentially giving others, not away to other people, but they go into an either central pile, and then players can take from that if they want to. You're basically trying to get sets of either 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 tiles, which then at the end of the round can then be slotted into this bathroom, which will then score you points based on where the tiles are. That's pretty much the game. Their theme doesn't extend much past that. There are like certain rules, such as if you take from the center pile first, then you end up getting to be the first player next time, but that also is seen as basically gain tiles as a second-hand market, which is kind of frowned upon in some cases, and you lose points that way. If you end up taking too many tiles, then you kind of have to basically throw them away, and that loses you points as well. There's theme, but it doesn't extend far. The production value, though, is of course absolutely wonderful. There are plastic tiles which just feel so good and so solid to hold, especially as they slowly fill up your board. It just looks absolutely beautiful. There is really good, the player boards themselves is really solid cardboard. So for the price, depending on how much you get it for, you are getting a really wonderful product, and it's a good abstract game. That's my initial thought. Now, the gameplay is fun. You're essentially just taking tiles. There's a bit of cleverness to be like, okay, well, if I take this tile now, or then I might not get it later, and then I could maybe wait for it to come back to me and get all 4 tiles, but I run a risk of that maybe not happening. So there's a couple of clever thinking patterns going on as you play through the game. The scoring is a bit uninteresting. You're essentially just trying to get your tiles as closely as possible to each other, because they score kind of in the way that Scrabble does. So you kind of score horizontally and vertically depending on where the tile is. So essentially the best way to score would be to almost expand your bathroom almost horizontally, and that would probably score you the best amount of points. The game ends once you fill up a row of 5 tiles. That's when the game ends. So it's up to the players to end the game. We'll get on that a bit later. That's one of the things besides that. But the play again is interesting. You're trying to think of, okay, well, if I take this tile, and of course you obviously are trying to look at other people's essentially their bathroom floors and see what they need. Now, I played the game 4 players, and with 4 players, I think the big thing is with 4 players and 2 players, there is very much a difference in how the game is played. In a 2-player, there's much more focus on looking at the other player and seeing how your moves can mess a player up, because this is not a nice, relaxing game. This is a very much a cutthroat game where you can actively screw a person out and possibly cause them to lose 10 points in a round. It is a very mean game, depending on how you play it. So you're going to be constantly looking at your opponent's board. This is a lot harder to do with 3 players. And what happens is, if you tend to be sitting next to a person, or for example, you might be sitting next to a person who's very, very aggressive, and so you tend to be getting screwed over a lot more than say another person would be, because they're sitting next to someone who's very much not doing optimal plays, but just allowing the other person to get ahead because they're just giving them the tiles that they want. There's also this feeling of a runaway leader, where essentially if you get a good early round 1, if you manage to like get 4 tiles down on round 1 while everyone else only gets 3 tiles down, you essentially have cleared up much more of your board, so you have basically better ways to play in the next round. You have more space to make plays in the next round. And of course you're in the lead, so it kind of demoralizes people. Now, I think what this comes down to is there's something in game design called perceived balance, where even if a game is balanced and the designer has put a lot of work into balancing the game, the players might feel like it's unbalanced based on what actions are happening. because you can always see how much points a person is scoring and how much points a person has scored, there's this very much a sense of demoralization. This happens a lot in a lot of games. So you, for example, you play something like Blood Rage, and if you're 20 points behind when you get to the end of the second age, you feel kind of crap. You feel like, oh well, there's no reason for me to play this. There's no reason for me to do the last round because there's no way I'm going to win. Azul, and this is the big thing I don't like about Azul, Azul takes that a step further and says, you know what, the players can decide when the game will end. Obviously, a player could simply just go and fill up the first row 5 times and end the game in 5 rounds, or everyone could play all the way until the very last tile is placed in the bottom right hand corner and then all the rows are completed. It's a choice up of when do you end the game. The trouble is, if you're a person that's doing well, it's very unlikely that you're going to want to end the game. If you're a person that's behind, you're frustrated because you're behind, and you just think, well, I can just end the game now and we can just move on to something that I have a better chance at. And that's so incredibly crucial. I remember the same thing happened in the same thing happened in Terraforming Mars. They both have the same acronym, TM. But the same thing happened in Terraforming Mars, where essentially you could see that one person's engine was just vastly superior and they were constantly just churning out point after point after point after point. But that person never made an effort to end the game. So they ended up falling on other players to end the game. This meant that the game took significantly longer than it had to be, and the person who ended it felt so crap because they weren't getting enough out of it. They were doing subpar actions purely because the game needs to end. Azul has this same issue, whereas that if the player that's doing well, he probably doesn't want to end in the game because he wants to get the best score possible. And if you're behind, you're probably going to end the game because, hell, why not? That's my biggest gripe with Azul. It plays fast. It can play in about 40 minutes. But the cutthroat nature of the game and the apparentness of scoring just make it feel like a not very enjoyable experience. Now, I should preface this by saying this is with the 4 players. I think in a 2-player game, that tension that gets created and that suspense of thinking, well, I can end the game now and I can win it, that might come into prevalence a lot more because it's only a 2-player game. You're only versing someone else, so you can see where that person is going and you can make better actions based on that. But with a 4-player game, I feel like this gets a lot more chaotic. So my overall thoughts is that this is a very good abstract game. It's well designed. There's a few major flaws with the scoring issue and the apparent scoring issue and the end of game scenario, but the general play of it is quite fun, and of course there is the tension of being quite cutthroat. This is definitely a good game to pick up if you're looking for an abstract game. I don't think it's probably my best game of that sort. If I'm playing a tile laying game, I would easily go for other things like Island of Sky for a 4-player game, or even something like Carcassonne I think would probably be a better fit for a 4-player tile laying game. But as a 2-player abstract game, I think this is very, very, very solid. This is enough to probably rival something like Santorini in a 2-player abstract game. So, overall recommendations, if you're looking for a 2-player abstract game, absolutely get it. If you're looking for a game that can play 4 players more as a filler, this is probably not one I'm going to pick out anytime soon. Anyway, I hope that helps you make some reasonable purchases, or at least think about what you maybe want to get. Maybe you don't like abstract games, maybe you do. Please let me know in the comment section. Of course, if you have enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like button. And of course, if you want to see more videos of this, just hit subscribe. Again, I will put out videos at least once a week going forward. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.